Well, if you haven't been paying attention, the Flames made a trade. The Flames are in a playoff spot, and we all love Dustin Wolf. So, hey, let's talk about it. Welcome another episode of the Red Mile Rundown. This is episode 20. I am your host, John Eastope. Thanks for joining us today. Alongside me, as always, my co-host, Robert Munich. How we doing, Robert?
Pretty good, dude. I can't believe that it's already been 20 episodes. That just feels like a lot. It doesn't feel like we've done 20 so far. I just find that crazy.
It's insane. I was actually looking at it today, and I was like, wait a minute, how did we have 20? But goes to show when you have a good time flies. How frigid are you where you're at? Because we're hitting minus 35 wind chill where I'm sitting at today. So it's a good day to sit inside and record a podcast. Have you got the frigid temperatures where you're at, or have you escaped?
Oh, I'm in Vancouver right now, and it's snowing, so it's just sheer panic in the city. Everybody's freaking out. Car accidents all over the place. So it's different here. Like I said, because it snows, people lose their minds, but luckily it's not minus 30, so I'm very thankful for that.
I did feel a little bad sending my kids to school this morning, but only a little bad because I had to walk in the same frigid temperatures when I was a kid, so not all that bad. What I don't feel bad about is the Flames making a move to help better the team. If you've missed it, there's been lots of coverage on it, so if you've missed it, where have you been? But the Flames have made a trade with the Philadelphia Flyers. It's Andrei Kuzmenko, Jakob Pelletier, a second-round draft pick in the 25 draft, a seventh-round draft pick in 28, which I find hilarious, to the Flyers for Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost with no salary retention anywhere on that. Robert, your initial reactions when you saw this news, saw this trade, and how you feeling about what you've seen so far from these two gentlemen?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the trade, I was pretty excited. Not gonna lie. When it comes to trades and all that kind of stuff, for me, a lot of it always comes back to asset management. And I thought Craig Conroy did a very good job when it comes to asset management with this trade, because you end up dealing Andrei Kuzmenko, who's had a horrific season. Basically, like Elliot Friedman said on 32 Thoughts, that the Flames were close to putting him on waivers. Like that's how bad it got with this guy this season, which was shocking. So you take a guy that pretty much had no value. You take Jakob Pelletier, who was on waivers at the beginning of the season, and in my opinion, probably maxes out as a bottom six winger, probably like a decent third line winger. And then one of your 2 second-round picks, along with a seventh, and you get 2 younger players, a 24 and a 25-year-old, both with, decent offensive upside. Both, Farabee's hit the 50-point mark once in his career. I don't know if he's going to get back there. But Frost is the guy I'm particularly excited about. I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. I think with getting more of an opportunity in Calgary, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play, I could definitely see this guy taking the next step in his career and potentially becoming a consistent 50 to, I could even see like a 60, 65 point player in a couple kind of career years for him. I really, really like that move by Craig Conroy. So, if I was going to have to give it a grade, I would probably say like a B or a B plus. Like, I was very, very impressed with the move and very impressed by the patience. And he didn't give up very much, which is what I was worried about. I was really worried that, whether it was a Dylan Cousins or whoever else, I was really worried that the Flames were going to go out and, send out a first round pick in 2 seconds like they did for Dougie Hamilton and Travis Hamonic back in the day. But they didn't do that this time. And, they only send out a second and a couple roster players, and they get some guys with high upside. So I'm pretty excited about it. That's kind of how I'm feeling. What about yourself? How are you feeling about the trade?
Well, all due respect to whoever becomes that second-round draft pick, but this was a heist, in my opinion, for Craig Conroy. If anyone who follows me has seen how much I've loved Morgan Frost over this weekend and how much I'm glazing over this guy, if you're excited about Connor Zary, get excited about Morgan Frost, because these two together, whether they play line 2 and 3 or play together on a line, are going to be an absolute duo for this Flames team, and I think for years. Morgan Frost is an RFA at the end of the year, but I think you could bring a guy in here, you give him a few months to get acclimated here, and you can come to a deal. I don't see anything stopping that happening. And then I found it a little bit weird that the Flyers, and what you heard out of Flyers camp, was they wanted to get out from underneath this Farabee contract. And I kind of humped and hawed at that a little bit because we all saw the reports of the salary cap numbers and where the salary cap is headed. Do you not want a guy on this contract to help you reach to the floor? They must have a lot more in the hopper because the Flames didn't send anything to the Flyers for these two guys. They were not going to sign Kuzmenko. It was not going to happen. They were already willing to lose Jakob Pelletier on waivers. A second round draft pick, we got two of those, so why not use an asset to bring somebody in? And well, we all know about seventh round draft picks. It's not often you find a Dustin Wolf, but they are there. But that's low value. So I think the Flames did a really good job on this trade. I give Conroy an A on this trade because of what he brought into the Flames organization. It was two young players that can fit and grow with the nucleus that he's already built here. These guys slide in right beside the Zaris, the Coronados, that'll help become the new core for this group as they continue to push forward here. And then I think the one thing that I'm really looking forward to seeing as Morgan Frost grows here is how much of the Backlund role does he kind of take away from Backlund, allowing Backlund to maybe play a few less minutes and remain a little fresher for longer to help him at the end of seasons and into potential playoff runs. So I love this trade. I love the potential it can have on this team. You saw on the weekend as they were playing against the Red Wings and in Seattle versus the Kraken, you saw them doing a lot of different things in a lot of situations. Morgan Frost's face-off value was very evident in both those hockey games. I saw a lot of zip and jump to Farabee's game. Once he becomes comfortable, I think he's going to start finding a bit of a scoring touch again, depending who he plays with here. So I like this trade all around here. And Rob, I'll get your opinion on this as well. This allows, I think, in my opinion, the Flames to maybe slot a little bit better. Maybe push Pospisil back down the lineup where he belongs a little bit more. Lessen some minutes on some guys who are being taxed a little bit too much. How do you feel about the fit of these two guys in this lineup and ultimately where you would like to see these two guys?
Well, with Frost, I would like to see Frost get more of an opportunity playing like top 6 minutes, playing with better players at 5-on-5. I really think that this kid has the skill set to be a really good player one day. So, like you said, maybe you could push Mikael Backlund's ice time down a little bit more, continue to play him in more of that defensive shutdown role, but maybe give Frost a little bit more time at 5-on-5 to do his thing. As for Joel Farabee, I don't really know where I want him in the lineup just yet. I mean, I don't know if this is the case for you, but I definitely did not watch a lot of Philadelphia Flyers over the last few years. So I don't know their games all that well. So I think it's going to take some time for me to kind of break down what Farabee's good at. I think he's in a good place right now. But moving forward, I don't know if I want him on a top line with Huberdeau and Kadri. We'll see how that plays out moving forward. But the guy like I said, the guy I'm very excited about is Morgan Frost. And then when Connor Zary returns to the lineup, the Flames are going to have a half decent roster.
Mm-hmm.
You bring Connor Zary back into the mix, you bring Kevin Bahl back into the mix. All of a sudden, you're kind of like right in the middle of the NHL. Like you're a very mediocre team, but like you're a better mediocre team than you were before, if that makes sense. So, they've definitely helped themselves when it comes to this season in particular, and their playoff push. Vancouver, I think, got significantly worse in the JT Miller trade, so that's good news for the Flames. But yeah, just in terms of their place in the roster, I think we got to give it some time before we kind of definitively say. But man, I am excited about Frost. I thought over the weekend Frost was the Flames' best forward in those two games. I thought he was super dynamic, making plays, like really noticeable. I was super impressed by him.
Yeah, me too. I was messaging you last night as we were watching the Kraken game, and I'm like, why is he not out there taking these key face-offs? And I understand how Backlund is your defensive specialist, and you love him to kill off games, but ride the hot hand in the face-off circle. That's been a big thing that I noticed this weekend for the Flames. Was when watching these games was how good Frost was in that doing that one job. And when you start with the puck, his Captain Obvious for you. When you start with the puck, it's a lot easier to have a good shift when you're controlling the play, when you're starting off on the right foot. And that's what you saw from Frost when he was on the ice. He was a lot of forward motions, a lot of in the zone, a lot of deep play in the offensive zone. And when he was there defensively, he was very solid in what he did. So I love the upside of Frost here. I love what the Flames did here, the versatility that he can bring to this lineup. Maybe allow Zary to go back to the wing and settle in as a winger again. And for Farabee, I just wonder how long it's going to take for him to get acclimated to a new system here, and to get back on Backlund and Coleman to help him get acclimated to the Flames and get acclimated to his game. He was good on the weekend, but I think there's more to Farabee's game from what I've been reading up on and trying to watch some clips here from this player. I think there's more from Joel to give than what we saw on the weekend, and looking forward to seeing how he settles in here. You mentioned the Vancouver trades. There was two of them, of course, and how they may have gotten a little bit worse. How did these two trades, then, if you view them from a bigger scope, affect the wild card race? Is this the Flames now wild card to lose when you're going up against Vancouver, or do you think this is still a neck and neck race here? Still got to watch out for the Blues. Still got to watch out for these other teams coming up here. The Canucks, almost by trading JT Miller here and not bringing back big names, almost signaled a white flag of sorts. How do you read these trades and how they affect the wild card race?
Well, the big difference between the Flames and Canucks right now is goaltending, and Dustin Wolf is giving the Flames outstanding goaltending, like we all know. And right now, Thatcher Demko and Kevin Lankinen aren't doing that for the Canucks. This season, the Canucks, they're 31st in the NHL in save percentage in all situations, which is pretty crazy. Yet the Canucks are still right there with the Flames. So I still don't think the Flames have a leg up on Vancouver. I think when it comes to talent and rosters, I still think Vancouver on paper is probably still a little bit better than the Calgary Flames, but we got Dustin Wolf and they don't. So it's kind of simple as that. But this season, JT Miller was not an effective player for the Canucks. I know he's been great in New York so far, and he's probably going to finish great in New York, but in Vancouver this season, Miller was never going to get to that level. Just things have gotten so bad in that locker room. Things are so dramatic, and it looked like JT had completely checked out in Vancouver. So losing him and bringing in a guy like Philip Hedl is probably not the biggest downgrade for that team. I think it is in the long term, but we're talking about just this season in the wild card race. I don't think it's a huge downgrade for them, and they get better on defense. So overall, I think the Flames and Canucks, they're going to be going at it all season. And if Vancouver ends up getting just a little bit of goaltending, even just to get back into like the top half or even just the middle of the pack in terms of save percentage and quality of starts, they'll probably end up catching Calgary and leaping them. But like I said, that's all on paper. The Flames, they have a legit goalie, Dustin Wolf, playing really well right now. The Canucks don't. And, I'd say it's neck and neck right now. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, that's well put by you. Well put by you there. I think getting the distraction of JT Miller out of that room, and yes, they added what people would consider lesser pieces back into that room. I think the cohesiveness of that group, though, is going to help the Canucks maybe right the ship a little bit here. Elias Pettersson now can maybe relax when he goes to the rink here, and he can play a little bit more free. I think Hedl is a really good number 2 or 3 center on a team, so he can slot in there right behind Pettersson and provide some offense. We saw a beautiful goal by him on the weekend. And I like the Marcus Pettersson addition on the back end for them as well, some little bit of depth for them. So I read it very similar to how you do. If they can get the goaltending, it's weird that Thatcher Demko is struggling how he is. If they can get goaltending, average goaltending, I think this is going to be a really good team down the stretch. And the Flames are going to have to continue to be on their horse. Going to have to continue to be sharp every single night. They got a tough week this week with the Leafs and the Avs coming through. But there's also winnable hockey games coming for these teams, and you got to stay the course, play your game, and find a way to finish here. And so I like the move that the Canucks did. I like the move that the Flames did, allowing both these teams to kind of signal an early arms race. It's been a bit weird seeing all these early trades, the Rantanen trade earlier as well, and these teams not waiting for any trade deadline. They're seeing these holes in their lineup and going out and making these trades. I kind of like that from a general manager. I don't know how you feel about that, but I love when a general manager makes a move a little bit earlier in the season and all these guys get acclimated to their new teams here.
Yeah, like I think that makes nothing but sense. And, I think a good way to kind of sum up the Canucks and Flames right now is for the Flames, everything has to continue to keep going their way. I know they've run into a little bit of injury issues this year, but for the most part, a lot of things have kind of swung the Flames' direction this season, especially in net. And when it comes to Vancouver, everything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong. So it's almost like those two things need to continue to happen. So everything needs to go wrong for the Canucks. Everything needs to go right for the Flames. And I think Calgary has a shot. But that's asking a lot of those two teams, because Vancouver, they do have talent. Like if Pettersson can somehow find his form from, a year or two ago, the Canucks are going to be a much different team. If they can get some saves, they're going to be a much different team. And then for Calgary, if Dustin Wolf falls off here, they're screwed because they can't score goals. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how these two teams play from now until the end of the season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. That's gonna be a fun race to watch down the stretch here. You spoke of injuries on the Flames. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask? I just want to go back to Frost for a second.
Yep.
And I want to ask you something. Does the acquisition of Morgan Frost, and I'm assuming the Flames are probably going to sign him to a long-term deal, probably like a 5, 6, 7-year deal this summer, if he's willing to stay. Does that open up a chance to trade out a guy like Nazem Kadri or Mikael Backlund this summer? Or would you not go that far?
Oh man, you're jumping ahead in the rundown. I love it. I love it. This is one of my questions for you later on in the show, so I love it. We all heard what Craig Conroy said on the weekend in his interviews in Hockey Night in Canada and stuff like that, where he's not trading these guys out. He's not trading the Kadris. He's not going to be trading the Andersons. He wants to keep these guys as veteran leaders for this group. But I really think that if Morgan Frost can come in here and be what we think he can be and take that next step, Connor Zary comes back from his injury and plays at the level he was playing at before he was injured, and you get guys like Sharon Govich picking up his socks. Stuff like, I think it absolutely does make sense for an off-season move of a guy like Nazem Kadri or even a Mikael Backlund. Don't come at me, haters. Just speaking facts here. I think it does open the door to move along, because if you have both of those two young centers pulling the wagon at high levels and you're seeing growth every single time they're out there, why not? Why not open up the roster spot? Why not open up the cap space? This Flames team has a buttload of cap right now, a lot of cap, but they're going to quickly get it sucked away with all the RFAs coming up and decisions that they have to make coming the next couple 2 to 3 years here with their players that are going to need new contracts here. So I absolutely think it does open the door. I don't know if it opens the door for this season, but definitely something at the draft or in July when the free agency hits. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. I'm of the belief that Connor Zary can be a full-time top 6 center in the NHL. I'm of the belief that Morgan Frost is absolutely a top 9 center and pushing to be a top 6 center. So I do, and I think that does end up pushing a guy like Mikael Backlund or Nazem Kadri out. And like you said, the cap situation for the Flames is really interesting because everybody thinks like the Flames have a ton of cap space right now and they can do whatever they want. But like you said, they have a lot of important players going from rookie contracts to making huge money. Like Connor Zary is going to go from a $800,000 player to probably a $6-7 million player. Coronado is going to go from a $900,000 player to a $6-7 million player. Same with Dustin Wolf. Same with Kevin Bahl. Same with Frost. All these guys are getting huge pay raises. So if you want to sign those guys long term and you want to keep that group together, you're going to have to move out a Mikael Backlund who's making, I believe, was it $4.5 or $3.5 million a year? You got to move out a Nazem Kadri who's making $7 million. So I think it makes nothing but sense this summer. And I'd be curious to hear your opinion. Like, do you think there's any chance that like a guy like Backlund would want to go? Like if you're Craig Conroy and you approach him and say, hey, you know, Colorado Avalanche or the Dallas Stars have interest in you for next season, like, would you be willing to go there? Like, is Backlund a guy that you'd be willing to move out of Calgary despite the fact that he is the captain of the team? Because his game has kind of taken a step back this year.
I would absolutely look at moving Mikael Backlund if that was the case. If you went to him and said, listen, we still are sticking to this plan. I know we caught lightning in a bottle there for this last season. We made the playoffs potentially and all that stuff. This is still going to be part of our rebuild, still going to be building up to being in a new building. They're still trying to stick to this plan if you believe what Conroy is telling us. So I absolutely would. Any of those guys that are 34 and older, I would not hesitate to go to them and be like, listen, we got to move someone out. This is just how it has to be. This is business. Because you listed off those RFAs that are going to need new contracts. Those are key pieces. Those are your next core. The Balls, the Coronados, the Zaris, the Wolves. That's your next core. That's the nucleus of your team that you're trying to move forward with here. The 38-year-old Nazem Kadri, the 36-year-old Blake Coleman, those aren't guys that are going to be here long term for your group. So I don't think you can play the, well, we like this guy game. You have to play, unfortunately, the business side of things here. And it would suck if they went and traded Mikael Backlund because, you know, being the captain of the team, one team for his entire career thus far, all those same accolades that people like to throw around there. But if he wants to go chase a Stanley Cup, but let's be honest, the Flames are a couple years away still from being those Stanley Cup finals, Stanley Cup contender type team. They might be a playoff fighting team right now, but they're not going to win the big thing. So go ask him. Would the Avalanche have interest? Would the New Jersey Devils have interest? What about the Rangers, the Maple Leafs? There's a bunch of teams out there that would take on a guy like Mikael Backlund who adds depth to your roster. So I don't think you can have it off the table. I think these guys have to be on the table, and you have to be willing to make that move, obviously, if it makes sense for the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, and like I don't know if you feel the same way, but I do think Backlund's game has fallen off just a little bit. Like I don't think he's quite as fast as he once was. I don't think he's quite as creative or dynamic in the offensive zone. He's still able to shut guys down. He's still got a decent face-off percentage. He's still a pretty decent penalty killer. So there's aspects of his game that you like, but to be giving him like the second most minutes among centers on the team at this point of his career, I think it's asking a lot of him, and that's kind of what he's been getting this season. And I wouldn't mind either seeing, whether it's Kadri or Backlund. I think one of the two should probably go next in the off season. And it just, once again, it kind of comes down to asset management as well. You want to be able to get something for these guys, and Nazem Kadri's still playing at a pretty decent level. You can still probably get something for him in the offseason. Like by the sounds of it, it sounded like teams were calling on him in the summer, and teams have been calling on him this season as well. So it sounds like there is interest in him around the league, and the Flames might need to take advantage of that, because pretty soon Kadri's, like you said, Kadri's going to be 36 next season, then 37, 38. Like he's getting up there in age. How much longer can Kadri keep this up? So, and now with the addition of Frost and Zary down the middle, and that's kind of a game changer for this team. So if I'm Craig Conroy, I'm definitely exploring the ideas of trading a Mikael Backlund and a Nazem Kadri this summer.
And Nazem Kadri is the kind of player that you could get a young center back in. He might not be a blue chip young center coming back in that trade, but there's potential there to bring back another center to add to your group, another lottery ticket, some draft picks, right? And I think you definitely look into those moves. There's no doubt Mikael Backlund's lost a step as well, which is another reason why I love this Morgan Frost acquisition. I mentioned it earlier when talking about the trade. Why not have Morgan Frost play a few more of those minutes, lessen the load on Mikael Backlund a little bit? He does look a little bit slower. Maybe he's tired. Maybe he needs a bit of a break here, because when you're that old, and I can speak to that old because I'm 40, you run out of energy a lot quicker than you do when you're 29. It just how nature works. So you let this guy rest a little bit more, and you use him in the key situations that you need him to have for. But 5-on-5, give Morgan Frost some more time. Give Connor Zary, when he's back, a bit more 5-on-5 time, and allow this guy to have the energy for a deep playoff run that you're hoping to go on if you're the Calgary Flames. But back to the question at hand here, absolutely everything should be on the table if you're the Calgary Flames. If you're looking to build a team for a longer term goal, everything should be on the table for you, and that includes moving the captain if it comes down to it. That includes moving Nazem Kadri if you can get the right trade, and it allows your team to be set up for success here. And you're not just going to do the same old recycle that we've seen the Flames do for 30 years, 40 years of them just continually recycling the same old roster over and over and hoping something changes here. Build the youth, give the youth the opportunity, and I think that's the way the Flames should continue to go here, because that's what they've done thus far this season, which has been really awesome.
And then just one more thing to add is just, it's like we were talking about their future salary cap. So like I wrote an article about this at Flames Nation, and if you haven't read it yet, go check it out.
It's a great read.
Thank you so much. And yeah, just talking about what does the next few years of the Flames salary cap look like, and if Craig Conroy wants to keep this team together and sign his RFAs to long-term contracts, they're going to be out of cap space with this team currently constructed right now. So Conroy's got to ask himself, is this the team I want to move forward with? Because in my opinion, if you take this group of players, all the top 9 forwards and top 4 defense, and you want to move them together on long-term deals and move together in the future, there's not going to be room to do anything else. Because like I mentioned, Wolf is in for a huge raise. Coronado, Bahl, Zary, Frost, all in for huge raises. And then on top of that, you have Rasmus Anderson, and he's going to go from making 4.55 probably up to $9-10 million because of where the cap's going. Those are huge pay raises for all those players. All of a sudden, you're not going to have cap space to do anything else. You're not going to be able to make trades to bring in other players. You're not going to be able to sign free agents or offer sheets or anything like that. So Conroy's got to really think about, like, is this the group I want to go forward with? Because if it is, and they ends up signing all those guys to long-term deals, that's where all their cap space is going. Like, I heard Ryan Leslie say that, Craig might have some interest in a guy like Mikko Rantanen or something like that. They're not going to be able to do that if they want to keep this group together. So it's kind of something interesting to think about. And, you hope Conroy's future planning, you hope he's planning 5-6 years in the future instead of like just next season, because there's some big decisions that they're going to have to make this summer.
I always love those rumors of like a guy like Mikael Rantanen coming to the Calgary Flames. I'm like, yeah, this just screams of the Brad Richards thing all over again. Oh, we'd love the player. Let's give him a big contract, and he's not coming. He's just not coming. It also makes no sense, in my opinion, for the Flames to trade out 30-plus-year-olds just to acquire and bring some more in. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's a weird way to do business, but I understand why they'd have interest in a guy like Mikael Rantanen.
I totally forgot about the Brad Richards thing. That was crazy, hey? Like, I think that was 2011 or 2012 when the Flames came in second in those sweepstakes to New York. Like, thank God they didn't sign that guy. Oh my God, that would have been brutal.
What, you didn't want that boat anchor of a contract?
Not really, to be honest.
It would have added to all the other boat anchor contracts we've been signing. Speaking of a boat anchor, this is a bad segue. We talk about the injuries of the Flames, and we talk about Kevin Bahl, and unfortunately, he's going to be out a little bit while still here. But that
boat anchor Ball.
Anchor
That's
Ball.
what we're calling him now.
Why not? He's
big. He anchors the Flames defense. That's what he does. He anchors the Flames defense.
Well done. But I want to talk about Jake Bean, because with the absence of Kevin Bahl in the lineup, Jake Bean has been elevated in this lineup. We've seen him play top 4 minutes alongside Mackenzie Weegar. So just kind of a basic, easy question here, Robert. Your thoughts on what we've seen from Jake Bean in a top 4 role? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Would you rather see something else? And if so, what actually is there out there for the Flames to do before Kevin Bahl comes back?
I mean, there's not really a whole heck of a lot they can do. I mean, I'm sure they could go out and make a trade, but I don't know if you're wanting to do that at this point. I mean, this is kind of what they're stuck with until Kevin Bahl comes back. And Jake Bean's been okay. I mean, the way I would describe his game is very vanilla, very bland. There's not like, he doesn't excel at one aspect of the game. He doesn't play with a lot of emotion. He doesn't play with a lot of physicality. For me, it's just like he tries to make good, quick decisions, and he tries to be a bit of a puck mover, and he tries to take advantage of his mobility, and he does a half decent job of it. I don't think he's a fit long term in the top 4 for the Calgary Flames. I think that's safe to say, but I think in the short term for now, I think he's fine in that role. The guy that I'm actually more concerned about in the top 4 is Joel Hanley, because him and Rasmus Anderson have just been getting caved in recently. I mean, especially last night against the Seattle Kraken, they got absolutely destroyed. So I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a Jake Bean up with Rasmus Anderson instead, because Hanley and Weegar have been half decent together. So that's kind of my read on the whole situation. And I don't know, have you seen anything more out of Jake Bean than kind of what I just said?
No, Jake Bean's been fine. He's been fine beside Mackenzie Weegar, and he's done the job you asked him. Like, I'm with you there. He's not a long-term fit there. I really like him on that third pair with Paul Hall, and I wonder if there's a way to put him back with Paul Hall and sort out the rest of this roster. You mentioned Hanley and Anderson. You had this tweet yesterday. The shot attempts were 32-7 with Anderson on the ice, 33-6 with Hanley on the ice. That is ridiculous numbers. Those are awful numbers. So as good as Jake Bean's been with Mackenzie Weegar, I think it is time for the Flames to load up a little bit here. Put Weegar with Anderson, put Jake Bean with Bahl, and then you have 2 pairs that you can rely on to an extent in situations. We've seen Anderson and Weegar play well together at times in the past. That's always something you can go back to. We know what Bahl is with Jake Bean here. And then, yes, that does bring you the scary third pair of a Hanley, Barrie, or something along those lines. But I think you got to try to mitigate disaster here, for lack of a better term, until Kevin Bahl's ready to come back in the lineup here, because I don't know if Jake Bean can sustain the level he's at right now, which is very vanilla, like you mentioned, with Mackenzie Weegar. And I don't know, and I do know, we've seen it yesterday. Hanley cannot be a top four defenseman. This is not his game, and that's fine. You need guys that are 5s and 6s and 7s in your lineup, and that's where Hanley should be. So I just wonder if the Flames take a look at moving these guys around a little bit and just try to load up a little bit, get Weegar back with Anderson and see what rolls. Your thoughts on maybe mixing up the pairs a little bit here?
Yeah, I mean, just before I dive into that, I just pulled up some numbers here. So like Jake Bean and Mackenzie Weegar as a pair have actually put up some pretty impressive underlying numbers. Their Corsi for percentage is 61%. Scoring chances, are 55-34 for the Flames when they're on the ice. High dangers are 21-9 when they're on the ice for the Flames. So impressive underlying numbers. But just from an eye test perspective, like I said, I just feel like that pair is just pretty bland. I shouldn't say the pair. I think Bean is pretty bland, pretty vanilla player. But I think Mackenzie Weegar is probably the one who's been carrying most of the workload on there. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why their numbers are so good, is because of Weegar, because he's been great lately. I think he's clearly been the Flames' best defenseman this season, and it's really not even close.
Yeah.
But I mean, so based on those numbers, I mean, maybe you keep Bean and Weegar together for a little bit, and like you said, you got to get Hanley away from Rasmus Anderson. And right now, I mean, there's really nobody to replace him. So I would probably go to the American Hockey League, and I would call up one of Ilya Solovyov, Yan Kuznetsov, or Jeremy Poirier, and let one of those guys, show what they got. Because, Joel Hanley's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. He's not coming back. Guys like Solovyov, Kuznetsov, Poirier, there's still some upside. There's still some potential that they could be long-term fits here. So give them a chance while Kevin Bahl's out. I don't understand why you wouldn't see what these guys have. So that's probably what I would end up doing. I'd probably look to the American Hockey League to solve this issue right now.
Yeah, I don't hate that either. Top four Barrie scares you. Top four Hanley scares you. Maybe Solovyov can come in here and settle Rasmus Anderson down a little bit and be a force for him. I like those ideas as well. It's crazy. Poor Mackenzie Weegar. He gets picked on a lot because he's playing with Miromanov. He played with Hanley for a while. He plays with Bean. Just maybe in your eyes, why is Mackenzie Weegar continue to be such a good force for the Calgary Flames? Because you watch these games and he's very steady on the back end there. He moves that puck well. He skates well. He's very focused in his job and what he does. And he makes it look pretty effortlessly every time he's on there. What are you seeing yourself from Mackenzie Weegar, and why he's having such good success on the back end? This Flames group's not the best on the back end, but he's still being able to find a way to push whatever defensive pairing he's on, to push them in these games and make them be serviceable pairings in this lineup for the Flames.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most impressive part of Mackenzie Weegar's season, is that they've given him a whole bunch of different partners, and he's made it work for the most part. There was some time, I'd say earlier in the year, when him and Miromanov were not playing great together, but pretty much since then, I think, like I said, I think he's clearly been their best defenseman. I think a lot of it just comes down to his hockey IQ, because Weegar, he's not the best skater. Like, he doesn't have the best shot. He doesn't have like a lot of skill sets that are elite in the NHL. He's kind of one of those players who is just good to very good at everything. But I think the hockey IQ and the smarts is what's really separating him this season. And I think it's one of the reasons why he's able to play with a whole bunch of different guys. And the guy he's so valuable to this team. Like, I would argue, in terms of skaters, exclude Dustin Wolf from the conversation, I would argue he's probably their most important skater on this team this season. I think he's that important to this team.
Man, he's so good. He's so good when he's on his game, and he definitely pushes this group along here. Last topic here before we go here. We gloss a lot over one young man who has really taken this league by storm. He's very solid in what he does when he brings to this organization. People have been clamoring to see this guy in the National Hockey League for years, and their patience have paid off here. Can we gloss any more about Dustin Wolf? And my answer to that is yes, because he was just named Rookie of the Month. let's just gloss on him for a minute and how amazing this season has been for Dustin Wolf and the job that he's done here. He came in at the beginning of the year in a tandem role. We knew that he was going to be part of the tandem no matter what happens because the Flames moved out Markstrom to give him this opportunity, and he's taken the ball and run with it. He's been solid. You've seen growth in his game. You've looked lately at his home and away starts. Those numbers have gotten really close together. He's put himself in the Calder Trophy race. People want to put his name in the Vezina Trophy race, the Hart race, because Flame fans like to get ridiculous because that's what we do. How good has Dustin Wolf been for this team, and where would this team be without him? Is pretty evident to me as well, because I don't think they'd be anywhere close to being a playoff team without this guy. Robert, go ahead and gloss on this guy, how good he's been, how much he deserves this Rookie of the Month award from the National Hockey League, because he's done nothing but earn everything he's been given here.
Yeah, I mean, he's been remarkable. I mean, what more can you say? In the month of January, he had 7 wins, a 2.32 goals against average, and a 922 save percentage as a rookie goaltender, and pretty much playing in almost every single game for the Flames throughout the month of January. Like that's so impressive. And this team, the Calgary Flames, like they would 100% be in the lottery conversation, bottom 5 in the NHL, if it wasn't for Dustin Wolf. And you'd mentioned that there's some crazy talk about like the Hart Trophy or the Vezina. I don't think it's all that crazy to be having Hart conversations with Dustin Wolf, because the definition of that award is the most valuable player to their team. If you look around the NHL right now, I don't know if there's a more valuable player to their team than Dustin Wolf is to the Calgary Flames. He is single-handedly keeping them in this playoff spot, in the second wildcard spot. They're now only a point away from the Los Angeles Kings. They're only 3 points away from the Colorado Avalanche. That is all Dustin Wolf. And I don't mean to take anything away from any of the players, because the skaters in front of him are playing hard, but there's no production there. They can't score. I think they play kind of middle of the pack defense. There's some good structure in there, but special teams aren't great. It is Dustin Wolf who's got the Calgary Flames to this point in the season. And when you look around the NHL, I would, off the top of my head, I'm thinking like Quinn Hughes is incredibly important to the Vancouver Canucks. Connor Hellebuck's incredibly important to the Winnipeg Jets. Kirill Kaprizov, very important to the Minnesota Wild. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff about like Leon Draisaitl, becoming the Hart Trophy winner. I'm like, if you take Draisaitl off the Edmonton Oilers, they're still a playoff team. They're still a good team. Obviously, nowhere close to where they are right now. But if you take Dustin Wolf away from the Flames, they're literally one of the worst teams in the entire league. So I think he has just been absolutely remarkable. I don't think the Hart Trophy stuff is insane. And to be quite honest, I think he should, if the season were to end today, I think he should win the Calder Trophy. I know everyone's obsessed with Celebrini and Lane Hudson. Dustin Wolf has been the best rookie in the NHL this season. And the Calgary Flames are incredibly lucky to have him right now. And he's looking like he's going to be that kind of franchise cornerstone piece of the franchise that they're looking for.
I spent the first 25-ish games of this season going, the Celebrini's award to lose, right? Because he's just been that remarkable for San Jose. And then you take a step back, take your bias out of it, of course, and just look at basically on what these rookies are providing their teams and the rewards those teams are getting from those rookies. And San Jose still very low in the standings. Having a very good season is Celebrini. You look at what Hudson's doing in Montreal, but they're still allowing a lot of goals, and so the effect of him is being felt, but not on a large scale. Dustin Wolf is directly responsible for a good 10, 11, 12 wins of this team, just solely by himself stealing these games. There's been multiple games where you watch Dustin Wolf and you're like, yeah, there's no reason we should have won that hockey game. But Dustin Wolf goes out there and he stole it. Dustin Wolf goes out there every single day and he's dialed in. He's got an opportunity here before the Four Nations with 3 games left for the Flames, all at home, a game every other night. I wouldn't put it past them to put Dustin Wolf in all 3 of those hockey games on this homestand before the Four Nations break and see what he can do against the Maple Leafs, the Avalanche, and the Kraken on Saturday. Wouldn't surprise me at all if you saw that, because you're starting to see him get tougher matchups. You start to see him play more on the road, and that's exactly what we talked about a few episodes ago. We're challenging Dustin Wolf, see if he can get to the next level. This guy is hurdling everything the Flames are throwing in front of them, and the Flames are reaping the rewards. They're in a playoff spot. They lead Vancouver by 2 points, and they're ready to be part of the playoff chase here down the stretch here. So a really good job by Dustin Wolf to go out there and earn it, and he's getting all his due just rewards for it and all his accolades for it. This glossing, people are going to call us homers on, other fan base will call us homers for saying it, but take a step back and look at the bigger picture and look what Dustin Wolf has provided for the Flames. Compare that to other rookies, and you'll see the clear picture, I think, yourself. I'm with you. I think he is definitely, at this point, the rookie of the year. Robert, 3 games this week before the Four Nations face-off. What are you expecting to see from this group of these 3 games? How excited are you for these 3 games, the Four Nations coming up? And then let these folks know what else is coming up on flamesnation.ca from you.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm not excited for, and that's to watch the Flames play the Seattle Kraken again. I got to say, I think like I mentioned it last night on Twitter, but like we think the Calgary Flames are mid. The Seattle Kraken are the definition of mid in the NHL. That team, they're so boring. They have no high end talent. It's just a bunch of mediocre players, and they finish, in that 25th last to 18th last in the NHL. I feel bad for that fan base. That franchise is going nowhere quickly. Ron Francis has done a horrific job there. So I don't know. I actually kind of worry about the future of that team because the NBA is coming back to Seattle pretty soon. The NHL is going to be probably the 5th or 6th most covered sports and talked about sport in that city because you got the Seahawks, the Mariners, the Huskies. You'll have NBA. You'll have WNBA. Like the NHL could be potentially in trouble in that market if they don't get their crap together here. So that's just my little Seattle Kraken rant there. But also looking forward to seeing the Flames take on the Avalanche and Maple Leafs. I think those are going to be 2 really interesting tests to see how they stack up against legitimate like top 10 teams in the NHL. So I'm actually really excited to watch those games, and I'm also just pumped to continue to watch to see how Morgan Frost progresses. I might be like getting like too excited and overhyping this guy too much, but I think there's a really, really bright future in Calgary for this kid. So I'm really pumped to get to watch him play against some better competition here.
Don't come to me. I'm not going to calm down the Morgan Frost takes at all. I love this guy. He's going to fit beautifully in there. I can't wait to see Zari come back and play with these guys together, like maybe on a line together. I think it'd be something special and something fun to watch for the Flames this week. Find Robert at Ring of Fire CGY. Go check out his articles on flamesnation.ca. That one about the salary cap is a really good read. Find myself, Vintage Johnny 84, across your social media platforms. And thank you so much as well for the downloads, the listens, and the shares. Don't forget to leave us those 5-star ratings and reviews. Enjoy the games this week. We will see you back here for another episode of the Red Mile Rundown.